LWO1 WeatherNet. Liftoff conditions looking pretty good.
ESPS is ready for launch.
Ignition. Liftoff.
Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Ten, 9, 8,
Side booster ignition.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. T-minus 30 seconds.
And at T0, the rocket will be released from the hold down clamps at the pad. And as I mentioned earlier, that strong back right next to the rocket will retract the rest of the way, clearing the way for liftoff.
Stage 1 press for flight.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Falcon 9 is configured for flight.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff.
And liftoff of the 22nd SpaceX Commercial Resupply Mission, bringing you solar rays to the International Space Station.
Stage 1 propulsion normal.
Stresses on the vehicle will be the highest.
Execute.
So in preparation for maximum aerodynamic pressure, we throttle down those Merlin 1D engines. Now that we're through that point, we'll throttle back up and continue on to the next of our sequence of events. We have several happening in rapid succession. That'll be main engine cutoff, followed by a stage separation. Then we'll have a first stage flip maneuver, second engine start, number 1, and then a boost back burn on the first stage. Now, main engine cutoff, or MECO, that's where all 9 of the Merlin 1D engines on the first stage will shut down. That's followed shortly after by stage separation, when both the first and second stages will separate. From there, the first stage will flip to prepare itself for entry. A few seconds later, the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will ignite to boost the Dragon into a low Earth orbit. That's called SES-1. And then finally, on the first stage, we'll have boost back burn start to slow down the first stage in preparation for re-entry. So again, those 5 events: MECO, stage separation, first stage flip maneuver, second engine start, and then the boost back burn, all coming up just in under 10 seconds from now.
And MECO. Stage separation confirmed. MVAC ignition.
Stage 1 boost back startup.
So successful Merlin vacuum engine startup. First stage has begun its boost back burn. That burn expected to last about 30 or so seconds. Here's a shot of the second stage Merlin vacuum nozzle. You can see it starting to heat up as we begin this burn. The second stage will continue to burn here for several minutes until about the T+8 minute mark.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
If you're just joining us, welcome. You're watching a live webcast for the 22nd Commercial Resupply Mission to the International Space Station for NASA. This is SpaceX's 17th launch of the year, and we are flying a cargo configuration of our New Dragon spacecraft. On the right-hand side of your screen is the second stage, which is carrying the Dragon spacecraft into orbit. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see Falcon 9's first stage with the grid fins extending. It just completed its boost back burn and is making its way back to our drone ship. Now, the rocket has to do more than just go up. It has to go sideways really fast. At liftoff, gravity is pulling straight down on the rocket, but as we ascend, we tilt the engines. That's called gimbaling, and that begins to turn the rocket horizontally. We're still going up, but we're also heading horizontally away from the launch pad. That maneuver is called a gravity turn. The rocket typically needs to go about 7.5 kilometers per second, or about 17,500 miles an hour, to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and to get into orbit. So that's what the second stage is doing right now. Now, the first stage, in order to make its way back to our drone ship, named, of course, I Still Love You, it has 2 more burns to do. First is an entry burn. It'll ignite 3 of its Merlin 1 engines. That'll help to slow it down as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. And then the next activity will happen much closer to the drone ship. That is the landing burn. Will ignite just the single center Merlin engine to bring the vehicle's speed rapidly down to 0. You can see the grid fins that are extended on the left-hand side of your screen. We use those for atmospheric control. They help steer the Falcon 9 to make sure we make our way back to that drone ship as we get into the thicker parts of the Earth's atmosphere. And you'll occasionally see periodic bursts of a white gas like that. That's our attitude control system, giving us little corrections to our attitude.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Trajectory nominal.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
So with that, 3 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage igniting to reduce the vehicle's velocity. You can see that on the bottom left corner of your screen. This burn expected to
Stage
last
1
about
entry
20
burn shut down.
seconds. So from here, the grid fins will continue to take the first stage towards our drone ship stationed out in the Atlantic Ocean. At this point, T plus 6.5 minutes into flight, second stage is making its way to the initial orbit to drop off the Cargo Dragon spacecraft. And if you're just joining us, welcome. On your screen is a live view of Falcon 9's first stage on the left, the second stage on the right. We had an on-time liftoff at 1:29 p.m. Eastern Time. Nominal ascent so far. Talking a little bit more about the first stage. So the next major event coming up is that landing burn. Landing burn is what will bring the vehicle speed rapidly down to 0. Amazing shots of the first stage during re-entry. Once we get closer to the drone ship, we will deploy our 4 symmetric landing legs around the base of the first stage, enabling a nice soft touchdown on that drone ship. You can see a shot of that on the right-hand side of your screen. Perfect landing of that Falcon 9 for the first stage. First landing for this first stage. 86 successful recovery overall for SpaceX. Fantastic. Now coming up shortly, second stage is not done. It will be coming up on second engine cutoff. About under 30 seconds from now. It's been burning that whole time since stage separation to bring the 7,000 pounds of cargo into the initial orbit around our planet. And you can see we're getting close to orbital velocity.
Seco.
Shutdown of the second stage engine. From here, we'll be looking at telemetry, make sure we are in the intended orbit.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Fantastic. So with that, the second stage has just one major task left. It is commanding separation of the Dragon spacecraft just a few minutes from now. Until separation, the second stage will be making some small adjustments during this coast prior to Dragon separation. And we're hoping to have video, there's some video, into the unpressurized cargo section of Dragon. This video from the top of the second stage. We got a good look there at the new rollout solar arrays that Cargo Dragon is bringing to the International Space Station. So separation of the Dragon spacecraft expected at about T plus 12 minutes. So again, successful ascent, successful recovery of our first stage just a few minutes ago. You're looking at a live shot into the Cargo Dragon unpressurized section from the second stage that is in orbit around our planet.
Dragon separation confirmed.
Lovely. Planet Earth on the left-hand side. Dragon floating away. You can see the rollout solar arrays from this view atop Falcon 9 second stage, watching Dragon gently float away. So again, activities coming up for Dragon. It will begin its service section Draco checkouts, followed shortly after that by the nose cone
Expect loss of signal.
opening. And that's going to complete my coverage here from Hawthorne. But why don't we check in with Courtney at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. Courtney?
And nose cone deploy confirmed.
That's going to wrap up our launch coverage of NASA's 22nd SpaceX Commercial Resupply Services mission. Cargo Dragon is on course to dock to the International Space Station at about 5 a.m. Eastern Time Saturday morning. We will, of course, have live coverage of rendezvous and docking beginning at 3:30 a.m. Saturday morning Eastern Time. In the meantime, you can follow the mission at nasa.gov. Thank you so much for joining us.